Hello, everybody. We are excited for you to join us tonight. David is my uncle, and we're going to have a good time answering your questions. We've invested over 30 years of our life into relational capital. So while we're waiting for this show to get on the road, and Trey Bowden is going to be our host and facilitator, he is standing by to take your questions at that text number. And he already has some that people have submitted that we can start off with. But we're going to start here in just about 1 minute. If you want to jump in the chat and tell us where you are tonight, where you're calling from, and that would just let us know you're there. I saw Rhonda Hubbard on. I saw Henry and Jennifer Hageman. I see Cherie Albert. Who else do I see? Glad you guys are here tonight. It's awesome. See Mark George from Texas. Hey, Mark. Right. I think Rhonda Hubbard's got a couple other folks joining her house. I think she's got a little watch party going on there. That's what she said she was going to do. So it's going to be fun. All right, Trey, I'll let you kick this show off. It's 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. It might be, I guess it's 8 o'clock in Newfoundland, but it's 7 o'clock here in Georgia. And why don't you kick it off and get this show running?
All right, everybody. So welcome to this live Q&A. We've got Curt Beavers and David Beavers here. And we're really excited about all of this. And so kind of how Matt's going to go. So we are currently live on Facebook. If you head to makealive.com/BYE, you will find a button there to join the Zoom if you'd like to join. We are not going to be monitoring the questions on Facebook. We really wanted to make sure that we are as live as possible with everybody on the Zoom here. So you're welcome to join us. But other thing that I just wanted to just communicate is we've got our goal here tonight is to spend the next hour and just let you guys have the opportunity to ask questions. The way that we're going to be doing that is I'm going to be fielding questions to the number. So if you're on the Zoom, if you want to click on Curt, you can actually, I think that might have done it for everybody. I think since I'm a co-host that now this is spotlighting for everybody. And so the phone number is 478-377-7701. You can just message that number and I'm going to be taking the questions from there. And certainly if Curt and David want to, they can ask a follow-up question. We do ask that everybody just remain mic'd unless for some reason we ask you to unmic. That'd be really great. And so our focus is in the past month, back in February, it was really around this idea of building relational capital. As you all know, relational capital is really important to this business. It's something that Curt in particular is very passionate about. And so the first question I'm going to start with is, how has building strong relationships within the Juice Plus community contributed to your personal and professional growth? That's where I'm going to start, you guys.
Well, David, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Just say the whole question slowly one more time.
Yeah. How has building relationships within the Juice Plus community contributed to your personal and professional growth?
Okay.
Tell them your famous quote first, David, about what this business is.
Okay. Well, the famous quote, I'll say that, then I'll try to back up into it. There's such, Trey, Curt, when this is such a great question, just start off at the very best question you could ask. Before I give the famous quote, I will say that the whole relationship piece, for me, is the reason why I even joined the business. My background lent nothing to this type of industry. This whole direct sales thing was just totally out of my wheelhouse. But when Curt and Jackie, his mom, my sister-in-law, contacted me and sort of cut through all of my reluctance and confusion because of the relationship. It was almost as if saying, and I was in a place where I really needed to do something significant, but it was almost because they asked me, there was no question. Now that's oversimplification of the process, but I'll simply say that most people start the business. Actually, most people start the product because they trust you. They trust you. Later, they decide, not because of you, Curt, not because of you, Jackie, but because of what I've discovered about Juice Plus, what I've discovered about the business. I'm in it with you, but I'm in it for myself.
Sure.
So that took a while. I mainly just wrote on Curt and Jackie's enthusiasm and belief in me while mine was catching up with theirs for a long time. But personal growth piece, I learned over the years, 37 years, 1 month behind Curt, actually, my journey has been this. Juice Plus is a course. It's a journey. Doing the business itself. Juice Plus is a course in personal development, cleverly disguised as a business. In other words, if this is worked properly and relationally, as Curt has brought to our attention tonight, then one of the great byproducts of your experience in this culture, this community, this business, is that your own personal life will open up and grow and develop. You'll be challenged. You'll be encouraged, and you'll change. There's a transformative process that unfolds when you apply yourself to this business and do what it takes in terms of showing up, taking responsibility for your life, building relationships, setting goals. All those pieces are necessary for success in this business. And as you go about them, the person who benefits the most is you. You're the one who gets the change, the growth, the encouragement. And you wake up one day, it's like you've been walking in a mist for years and years, or maybe months. And one day you wake up and you realize you're wet. You didn't know much was happening, but all of a sudden you realize that your life has changed, and somehow it's come about because of your involvement, your relationships, and of course mine with Curt and Jackie, and expanded from there. Has been incredible for me. It's a long answer to probably the whole why we're here tonight is to answer that question.
And David's
Does that
famous.
start the question?
What's your famous quote, David? You didn't tell him your famous quote.
I thought the quote was, Juice Plus is a course
Yes.
in personal growth,
Yeah.
personal development,
Yeah.
cleverly disguised as a business.
Yeah. Did you already say
You
that?
think you're joining this thing to make money.
Yeah.
What you don't find out, you're going to be changed.
Yeah.
You're
in a
going
good
to
way.
you're going to become who you really are.
Who
But
God designed you
that's
to be.
another
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
So
Trey, was that good, or you want me to stab at it too?
Yeah, why don't we move on to the next question?
Okay.
And again, everybody, those of you who are just joining, we're having some late joiners. We would love to have your questions. They would come in here at this phone text. We already got one here, so feel free to text, and I'll toss it over to Curt and David. So this question came in and asked, how do you personally build community, strengthen relationships with your team when we're all spread across the country and world?
your turn, buddy.
All right. Well, it's very different today than when we started. Just so you'll know, I'm very old. And when I started, I carried a roll of quarters in my pocket, had a pager on my hip, paid $2,400 for a fax machine. And everybody in my business was long distance other than my next door neighbors, you know. So it was very different to build that community than it is today. But I think there's a fallacy there too. It's a great question because technology has made the farthest person on the planet seem next door in terms of an audible video connection. But just because you can connect with them and use your thumbs to chat with them doesn't mean you have a relationship. Doesn't mean you have community. Just like you're going to a cocktail party and you meet somebody and you've got to work the room and sit with them and talk to them and ask them a question to get to know them and you respond to their question. If you're going to use technology, it's work too. You have to play that same game or that same interaction to make it work. So I see the younger generation using technology as a prop or an excuse to have real relationship. And I think that's the danger of the place we're in today. But in terms of our Juice Plus business, I think community is built in a couple ways, just to answer your question directly. One, there's this relationship. When you sponsor somebody, I love word studies. When you sponsor somebody, guess what sponsor shares that root word sponsor? Guess what other word it shares meaning and foundation with? It's the word responsibility. So when you sponsor someone, you take on a responsibility. And my best analogy is that analogy of the relay runner, where you've got some traction and success and you're running the race, you're building your business, and you're holding that baton. And when you bring someone on board with you to run the next leg of the race or to start their race, there's that moment in time when both your hands are on the baton. It's not, it seems like a split second, but it's probably the most critical piece. It's the handoff. And you can't let go until they're ready for you to let go. So that's the beginning of the relationship building. That's the beginning of community with every new person you start. Then you plug them into the community. You know, I love to let David speak into somebody in my business because he brings such value, or a Wendy Campbell or a Rhonda Hubbard. They each bring beautiful things to the table. So we share our relationships so that the community can bless each other. And then, you know, once you've been in this business a while, what you find out is if you're taking a vacation or you're playing golf or you're playing pickleball or you're doing something fun, you do it with people you're in business with because we become like family. And community is so important. Go to a boot camp sometime and see how you can build relationships that are so far beyond the transactions of the business. Our business is relational. It's not transactional, although transactions have to happen.
Oh, that was great, Curt. So here's the next one. It's an interesting one. It seems like someone's in a little bit of a pickle. They say, I feel like I've shared the story, my story, with everyone I can think of. How do I grow my relationships to share, or basically that's the question is how do I grow my relationship network?
I think, David, I think you could maybe, why don't you jump in there and I'm going to kind of see if I understand the question, Trey, and I'll let David do it first, but it's really, all of us feel like we have a limited warm market, the number of people we know. And so as you begin to work that, you feel like you run out of names or contacts. And how do you grow that so that it's not a static number, it's dynamic? Is that what they're asking, Trey, do you think?
I think that's exactly what they're asking. It's kind of like, it seems like to me that, and I don't have their name. So if you do text in a question, please let me know, like, your name. That would be helpful.
Well, yeah, I hear the question simply saying, I run out of people to talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
it.
I've used up my warm market, so to speak, and I don't have any more people to tell my story to. And I think that's a pretty common feeling.
It's a real feeling too, I think. I agree with you.
It happens. And all I've ever done over the years is I just made sure I just stayed around people. Let me just tell you a little anecdotal story recently. Curt said he was old. I'm a little bit older, and our friends are mine and Sally's. And we have a dear friend, a gal, probably one of Sally's best two girlfriends. And she has an eye condition that when she uses a screen of any device, she gets migraines. And so her husband has become her personal secretary, so to speak. But what she's discovered that she was pretty addicted to those devices, be it texting, Facebook, Instagram. and she can't do that anymore. And she didn't realize how addicted she was. So she's actually having to call people.
Wow.
And talk to them. And she's getting addicted to that, she said. The point she's making, she was making for me to share with you, is that at some point you do have to talk to people.
Yeah.
I'm not a good person to ask about building community through technology. I'm just not good at it. I don't know. It's just a generational thing. I think it's possible. And I have some people on my team that are really, quite frankly, good at it. But I've not been particularly good. It's just the way I've come through the ranks. At some point, I think we have to cultivate people so you can have a conversation. And then it's your skill in Go ahead, Curt.
No, you go ahead. Finish.
Then it becomes your skill and conversation, not just telling your story, but just having how to have a conversation with someone and eliciting interest, not just being interested or not just being interesting, but being interested in them. And you just have to do that a lot. Yeah, I think, I don't know how I could do it differently, but I've had so many conversations that on the surface really went nowhere, but I've just had so many of them that some of them turned out pretty well. I'm not sure if I'm answering the question.
Well,
Go ahead.
I have immediate, like, recent feelings for the answer for this question. I can feel the person asking the question, Trey, because I think when you get there, you can feel desperate, because in this business, conversations, interaction, the next person you're going to share your story with is like what you've been told is like the critical moment of inertia, the critical thing to be doing in our business. And what I see is kind of what David talked about is this technology seems vast, and it looks like there ought to be 1 million people I could go talk to if I could just work on social media. I think there's two major problems with that. What I found is I have lots of friends on social media. I stay maxed out at the 5,000 limit. I do have a business page that has more people and doesn't have a limit. But on my Facebook profile, what I find is after a season, and this is for everybody, not just me, after a season, you're sharing your life, you're sharing your business, you're sharing your priorities, you're sharing what's important, and you're interacting and you're gaining some ground. But at some point in time, if you get serious and look at it, you're preaching to the choir. You're saying the same things over and over again to the same group of people, even with technology. And what I find is there's industries out there today that are preying on people's desperation of building new relationships. It's an industry where they're trying to sell you the opportunity to learn how to sell on social media. They're trying to sell you the opportunity of how to use online marketing to build your business and hide behind the screen. And it's a ploy. It's kind of like it's one of the greatest Ponzi schemes I've ever seen. You're selling the right to sell the right to sell the right to learn how to do something, and you just proliferate that with no real product, and it's very sad. And the question, though, is real, and the question is so important and so painful for people that they get desperate when they get busy, when they're busy moms and life and seasons change. They're constantly looking for a shortcut, which is great. I love shortcuts too. But in real truth, technology can help you connect with somebody, but technology is not finishing the process. If you're going to constantly build relationships, it's like what my mom said many years ago. You don't go out and do Juice Plus. You go out and do life and take Juice Plus with you. And as you go out and do life, you meet new people, whether it's at Bible study or it's at the gym or it's at the grocery store or it's the pharmacist or it's the person you play golf or pickleball with. We've got a new product coming out in San Diego that's going to be like the best product we've ever had for you to build new relationships. It's going to be amazing because our business model says, try this. I love it. You're going to love it. And you can do that with a stranger. So don't miss that. But I mean, it's work, but it's about taking Juice Plus out into the life you live. If you try and carve out moments in the week you're going to do Juice Plus, there's a really good chance that you're not going to be around the people you need to talk to in that moment. So put Juice Plus in your pocket and go do the life you love. That's what God wants you to do. That's what He's equipped us to do. Go change people's lives. Go change things for eternity. But take Juice Plus with you, and your relationship list is never going to stop. It's going to grow every day, and it's fun. Hope that helps. I mean, David, now we were kind of went all over the place there, but I mean, it's such a good question, and there's a day's worth of training in the answer, actually.
I
All
think,
right,
well, is that good, Trey? You want to go to the
No,
next question?
David, if you got a little nugget, make it happen.
Well, I think we're good. I think we're uptight about talking to people, and it comes through. And because we're not, when we don't talk to a lot of people, I mean, meet a lot of people, engage a lot of people, start conversations with a lot of people. What happens is you finally get a conversation with 2 people this month, and they get the whole fire hose.
Yep.
There's something about it's almost like, this is my chance. This is my opportunity to tell my story, to tell about the research, to tell about the business. And there's too much. In other words, if you just made a way of life just to visit and talk to people and engage people, almost as if Juice Plus was not in existence. Just forget about Juice Plus and just have conversations. And a lot of conversations. What happens is you put yourself under the gun of making something happen unconsciously. When you unconsciously, you're pressed.
And those people feel that
and
pressure
that makes the relationship building endeavor.
That's good, David. That's really good.
Not fun. And
those people feel that pressure. You may think you're a top-notch salesperson. What David said is so true. It's the best answer to this question. Talking to more people makes it easier, not harder.
Yes. Right. And as you talk to more people, you sort of train yourself of how you're listening, the kind of questions you're asking, the way you're responding, the way you're probably interrupting too much, the way you're over talking the person, and you pay attention to yourself, and you say, and don't beat yourself up when you realize, man, I just talked too much. I backed up the truck and I dumped everything on him. And the reason I'm saying this, because I've done it 100 times, 1,000 times. So you compassionately critique what you're doing and just get better at it, but you've got to do a lot of it. And not every conversation. I mean, this is even sales books. Most sales occur after 3, 4, or 5 conversations.
I think it's as high as 80%, as high as 80%, David, I think.
Yeah. And so with the technology, I think we're limited, and nobody's answering the phone. So you're sort of pressed, like, okay, I've got this person on social media, a text message, a private message on Facebook. I've got to squeeze in. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense, Curt?
Yeah,
it's
good.
Yeah. So
it's
we
hard
used to remember, Curt.
David's just told you how to avoid being the person you never wanted to be when you get in this business. I don't want to be one of those people that everybody I see thinks, here he comes, he's trying to sell me something. Because they feel that pressure upon you because you're not talking to 50. Huh? What'd you say?
I think there's a large, on this, knowing your audience, Curt, there's probably a large faith community in this group right here.
Right.
So let me tell you a little story about when I was in the ministry, and I was in an evangelistic ministry, and I was the director of it, and was coaching people and teaching people, and their responsibility was to go out and, for lack of better terms, share the gospel with people. Okay. Yeah. And we had to it was kind of, this is 50 years ago. We had to do reports, how many people we talked to, this sort of thing. And it really was crippling. And I remember doing something just so radically and so upsetting to my team. I said, okay, for the next 3 weeks, here's what you have to do. I want you to go on campus. It was a campus ministry, and leave your Bibles in your home, no surveys, no tools, no nothing, and you can't talk about God or the Bible or Jesus for the next 3 weeks. You have to meet people. And they looked at me like I'd asked them to eat a snake. They said, well, what are we going to talk about? Okay, I'm using that as an illustration. Is what if talking about Juice Plus was off the table, and for the next 2 weeks, your goal is to meet and have conversations with 40 people, literally, and just see what would happen. Now, that's an overstatement of the problem, but I know many of you are pressing, and
but you know, David,
even though
I think it's part of it's delayed gratification. We want immediate results, but think about what
True,
David
that's
just
true, too.
challenged you to do. If you were to do what David said for 3 months, you'd never have another bad month in your business. If you were to decide that you were going to start, let's just say 2 conversations a day. I'm just going to throw a number out there. That's 10 a week. You work 5 days a week. That's 40 in a month. Like that you'd start conversations. When you start, some of those are going to say yes, some are going to say no, some are going to need to go into that second, third, fourth, and fifth conversation. But when you start the second month, let's just say you got half of those still left in conversation. So you start with 20, you add 40 more. The next month you start with 40 and you add 40 more. By the time your third month starts,
filling the pipeline.
You fill the pipeline. You start the month with 60 people already in your pipeline without you having the first conversation. Guess what? Now somebody's ready now. Somebody's in the second conversation. Somebody's in the third conversation. Nobody's feeling any pressure. And when you pick up at the phone and call them, they're like, I've been having this great dialogue with David. He cares about my health. He cares about me. And he's never like tried to close me. We're just talking and moving things down the pipeline. That's what this business is all about. That's how you build relationships that last versus running people off and doing this business under the gun.
The question is here. Chris Winstrom's asked a question. I saw, is it a conversation about Juice Plus? As soon as I say no, you're going to say, well, what do we talk about? What's the point of having the conversation? That's the point I'm making. What is the point of the conversation if it's not about Juice Plus?
Yeah.
It might be about that person.
Might be.
And I think that's what why I've never run out of people to talk to, because I'm in conversation all the time. And not everybody I've ever had a conversation with has heard about Juice Plus,
Sure.
Believe it or not. Not every person I've ever had a conversation with in the last 2 years has even heard that I'm in the Juice Plus business. So that's something you got to mull that over and think about that, because I know the question Chris honestly asked keeps the pressure on. If it does, it keeps the pressure. And we're talking about relationship building tonight. And so,
Trey, let's grab another question. We can keep,
yes,
we can hang on to
good.
we can hang on to this topic because
it's interesting. A lot of this is just kind of figuring it out as you go.
It is.
And as you do it a lot. So next question.
Yeah. So everybody who's joined us, I know we have a handful of people on Facebook. You can text the questions. Curt, I'm going to call an audible here as well. So
okay.
And I'll manage it. Don't worry about it. But if you have a question and you're in the Zoom and you don't want to text and you just want to raise your hand, I'm going to just keep a track of a queue. And you're welcome to raise your hand, and I'll call on you as we kind of to keep the queue going.
Yep.
As we go from there. So if you'd like to ask a question, we'd love to have you on the Zoom here. But we do have a question from Lisa Johnson. She says, "I'm curious, do you have any suggestions on how to keep following up after you send third party sorry, let me rephrase the question one more time.
Okay.
Do you have any questions on how to keep following up after you send, I think that there's a word missing here, but like send a message when it comes to like third-party tools and try to get a date to follow up and they don't respond?
Yeah. You're going to think this is funny. David, do you care if I go first on that one?
Oh, have at it.
Okay.
You have the runway.
No, so you have to have some kind of follow-up system. You can't just hope you remember. You can't just, there's so many people that are good at slinging mud and they don't follow up with anything, and all the mud just falls to the ground, And so you got to have, everybody's different. We're all wired different. I love using the SIRI. I'm not going to say it because everything in my office will turn on or off if I say the word, or Alexa, if you've got that on your system, whatever you use. People probably see me driving down the road and they're like, who is he talking to? I'm talking to her, and she's saying, remind me to do this, remind me to do that. So that's my trigger for follow-up. But I think the real key is that you're not guilty of information overload, because you're having the conversations like David described so well, that they're a process, it's a pipeline, you're moving them down that pipeline. The easy thing to do is to use your phone or your technology and just be an information dumper. And if you're an information dumper, you're sending them things that their relationship with you is not yet said they wanted. Sometimes I say, all I need to say is, hey, do your kids eat enough fruits and vegetables? And they say no. I say, well, I got a way you can bridge the gap. I haven't needed to send them 7 research studies. They're like, well, that's awesome. I'm in. So make sure you're not, when you say, how do you follow up after sending third-party information and they ghost you? Maybe they ghosted you because you pursued the relationship by showing them how much you know before they knew how much you cared. Think about that for a minute. There's a quote, nobody cares how much you know, how much third-party information you can dump on them until they know how much you care. So I would think in most of those situations when you get ghosted, they got information which was a portrayal of your knowledge and understanding and your great resources, but they had not yet decided that you cared enough for them to want to hear it. Does that make sense, David?
Yeah, and I would, I haven't been as intentional about what I'm going to share with you now, but once you talk to someone, my sense is that they are now in your sphere of influence, and that conversation may be towards Juice Plus, eventually towards the business, and there's a lack of interest, or there's not the timing's not right for that person. I want to find a way to keep that person in my sphere of influence. And I think I learned this from Terry Luongo. Ever talked to and shown any interest, even though they're not ready to start on Juice Plus, she lets them know that she would like to invite them to be a part of her community, which is sharing health tips and encouraging healthy lifestyle and understanding nutrition better and so forth. In other words, be a part of this educational community. So she invites them, and they go into her email. And I've done this before when I've done group emails, and those people I stay with them, even though they've not become customers, and maybe at a later date, say, for example, when the new product that's coming out, that I still have a little bit of rapport with them, and I share the new product with them.
Yeah.
And they're ready for that. But it wasn't because if I cut them off because they weren't ready to get the trio or ready to start on Healthy Starts, I quit following up. But I have an email. I have a way of messaging them. Does that make simply?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I have people that I play pickleball with that I've handed them a bottle of water and put the 10th straw of Luminate in it, and we're still having wonderful conversations. They haven't bought yet, but I know they're close. I know they know that I care, and at some point in time, I may, hey, are you ready to order? Why don't you get some so you can share it with people too? But I've got so many conversations going on, I don't have to force that one. And it's nice that I don't have to force that conversation. So the challenge, I think, is if you're an information dumper, if you're getting ghosted, I would say they weren't ready for all you dumped on them. And I love what David said too, that you just gotta kind of work the process a little bit. How about another question, Trey?
Yeah. And so you've kind of mentioned this, but I'm curious if you have some specifics here. The question is, what are some natural or non-salesy ways to introduce Juice Plus to someone within your existing network?
Take it, David.
Go ahead, Curt.
And me? I can do it.
Go, please.
Non-salesy ways to introduce Juice Plus to someone in what network? How did you define the network, Trey? What did they say?
I think it's existing network.
Okay.
I'd be curious. I'm going to just throw in there. I'm curious on how about family members?
Sure. So family can either be the easiest or the hardest. Depends on there's what I've learned in life is there's some crazy family dynamics that most people never unveil exist, because there is not a what was that TV show? Good Night, John Boy. What was that TV show?
Waltons?
Waltons. Yeah, there's not a Waltons or that example doesn't really exist out there in society very often. So families have crazy dynamics. And my mom was my first sale, and it was my easiest. Lori's parents were our hardest sale, and they didn't decide until they got macular degeneration later in life, and they figured out Juice Plus was one of the best things for that because of the lutein and zeaxanthin that goes to the macula. So, that we got pushback for a long time from them. So I think family, this is going to sound weird, but one of the things that I do to not sound salesy, let's just say you have somebody that you see that they eat a donut for breakfast every day, and you're like, their life could be changed if they would just try to make a smoothie for breakfast. I mean, you really sincerely, like, you're obese, you're a sugarholic, and I know you love the taste of the donut, but you do not understand
Curt,
what it's.
stop talking about me.
Huh?
Please stop talking about
I
me.
wasn't looking at you, David. I had turned to the
I
side.
do love donuts.
Yeah. So and this is half of the American society. So don't if it's you, don't feel guilty, because there's a lot of people out there that are in that boat. But I'm trying to paint a picture. So there's legitimate concern for me. You really need to eat a healthier breakfast. What you're doing is not good. So I really I'm kind of pushy with them and really want them to try it. And I'm like, I tell you what, I care enough about you that I don't care if you buy it from me or not. You need to try Juice Plus. You need to start doing something healthier for breakfast. Go get it from somebody else. That's how bad I believe you need this. And so I've found when people feel like I'm being salesy, if I can do a takeaway, they can't go get it at Walmart or CVS or Walgreens. It's not sold in stores. So I'm not going to lose the sale necessarily. I might, but most of them come back and say, well, if you really mean that, then let me try it. But it takes the pressure off. Another thing, go ahead, David, you answer. But I want to talk about what role these people play. But why don't you take a stab at that question? How do you not be salesy?
Just relax. Just stop talking about Juice Plus and start talking about them and say, you said something just now, and, you mentioned something about your fourth grade child having earaches and so forth. And it occurred to me that I work with a lot of moms, and they struggle with that too. And some of them have found a way to kind of help their family with nutrition. And sometime when we have a little more time, I'd love to tell you about it.
You just did Xerox Sales 101, David. You listened and you found a need and met the need. That's what you did.
What I'm saying is I don't say, well, let me tell you about Juice Plus.
Yeah.
I'm almost the other extreme of not closing soon enough, but be that as it may, it's worked for me over the years, particularly in the area of recruiting and building team, is finding that need, finding that niche, addressing it, and leaning into the relationship as a learner, not as the authority. In other words, let me tell you what I've been learning. I was just on a call last night with my nephew, and he was telling me about this, and I explained maybe Luminate and so forth. And so I say, I lean into conversations. I lean into relationships as a learner and invite them to come along with me rather than saying, this is what you need to know about. That makes sense?
Yeah.
That's just what I've learned over the years.
Another thing that I've done,
Just-
guys, is people think you sound salesy when it feels like you're coming after their checkbook or their calendar. So if the conversation feels like that's what you want from them is their checkbook or their calendar, a piece of their time or a piece of their wallet. And when I started in this business, I was so young, I was naive, I didn't know what to do. And somebody told me, says, don't be afraid to ask for help. You don't always have to ask for the sale. So what I also learned was I would say something like this: hey, I have no idea if this product could be something that could change your life and be good for you. I have no idea if this business makes sense for you. But I know one thing: I would love to have your help. I need to find 5 amazing people to join me in this journey or to share this product with. And if you would just listen and understand what I'm doing for 15 minutes, I know you could help me find those people. Would you be willing to help me? That took every ounce of pressure off the conversation. And there's still the option for them using their checkbook or calendar to buy your product or join your team, but you just made them willing to listen. And sometimes that's all it takes.
I didn't know if Trey, you were going to talk any about memory jogger. Curt, you've done probably a training on that already.
Yeah, go ahead and dive in there.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say something about that. There's something very motivational and on a subconscious level when you work on your memory jogger and you think you've talked to everybody you know.
Hey, David, there may be a few people on here that are new enough they don't know what a memory jogger is. Can you tell them what it is first?
Memory jogger is basically is writing down a prospects list, the people you would like to have a conversation with or have a contact with to tell them about Juice Plus and or the business. So that's the list. The memory jogger simply is as you write down names, and let me suggest this to you just from personal experience over the years, writing it in longhand has a better impact on your experience than using a device. Now, I'm not saying if all you can do is type, that's okay. But there's something about going down on the paper and dumping names non-judgmentally. By that I mean is don't prejudge their ability or their interest in the product or the business. They're just a name. They're just a relationship. They're just a friend. They're just a contact. You put the name down first, dump, and write it out, and don't stop until you have 100 names. You might even have to make up some names, just to make sure you get 100. But the point is that something happens, and once you see you've put down 100 names on paper, something is triggered in your confidence quotient that says, I'll be there. There's some people there. There's 4 or 5 people in there that I think could really, that maybe I need to talk to them. And so you approach them and you see your call is, I was thinking about you. You came to my mind out of the blue. And so anyway, that's another training. How do you go from there? But the memory jogger is an important piece, not because it tells you the next person you're going to talk to, because of what it does to your brain and your creativity and your imagination.
I think it's important, David, when you talk about the memory jogger, one thing I would say, I love what David just said, but it's not something you do when you get in the business and you're done. It's not a static document. It's dynamic. It's changing. You do yourself a favor as you plan your week, just take 10 minutes every week to update it, stay on top of it, because it's an important tool in our business.
It's been really important for me over the years. Don't use it as much as I used to, but it's been a great tool.
I can tell you,
I started out. I remember just writing that first month or so in the business. It was just kind of scary. Who am I going to talk to? Who's going to be interested?
Yeah, I can tell you, national marketing directors on my team that sent me snail mailed me with a postage stamp, an 11-page legal pad full of written names. I can tell you people and it took them 11 years. That person took 11 years to make national marketing director. They made it. And then I've got people on my team that created a Google sheet with the Google app on their iPhone and sent it to me and shared, and we worked on it together on our phone and everything in between. So David's right. I mean, the touch, the pen, the paper is awesome, but it's however you'll do it is the most important thing, is that you do it and you keep
get going. Yeah. And don't try to, in other words, what I'm saying is don't try to remember all the names that you could possibly talk to. Just dump them somewhere.
Don't prejudge. That's what he's saying. Yep.
Yeah.
Curt, can I throw in a nugget here?
Yeah. Man, you got nuggets. You preach, brother.
So one of my favorite books on just how to create momentum in your small business is called The Snowball System by Mo Bunnell. If you're not familiar with it, he actually has a version of the memory jogger that I think is really interesting, which is really about helping thinking through and identifying what that next step is, right? And so I can't tell you how many times, for me, one of the best ways that I've shown people that I care is just sending them a book with a quick note on a card, because no one likes actually you writing in their book, but like writing a quick card as a bookmark that just says, "Hey, just thinking about you about this." It was a book that I was reading, and I have found that has been a really powerful way of just maintaining relationships. It's a $13 to $20 type of investment in that relationship, but it's really reaped a lot of rewards for me in particular. But I think thinking about what are those next steps for me, and for different people on my list, I think is really helpful. Curt, we've got one more question here. I know we're at 7:45 Eastern here, and we're gonna go till 8. But if we don't have any more questions, this will probably be our last one here. So if you do have another question, or if you want to raise your hand on the Zoom, please let us know, and we can kind of go from there.
Hey, Trey, when you after this,
the last question is this: can you share?
What?
Yeah.
After this question, I would love to talk about kind of something David can kind of summarize what we've already talked about as it relates to what's going to happen in San Diego and how you can be prepared. So I asked this question, but if there aren't any others, I'd love to dive into that topic too.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Can you share an example of how a strong relationship led to like an unexpected business opportunity?
Oh, this is a crazy one. You're going to love this. Okay. So Lori and I, when we got started, Charles Stanley married us, huge church, First Baptist Atlanta, famous pastor, just an amazing Bible teacher. Married us. We loved him to death. But after we got married, our church had a young couples Sunday school department, and it was huge. I mean, I'm talking about maybe 150 couples. It was big. I mean, it was an active, big department. And one of our best buddies in there that was in our small group, she worked at the grocery store as a clerk. Her mom walked through the Bible. She had gotten married, and she just became a deep buddy friends. And I'm not going to name names because it's a crazy story. So they got in the business with us. She actually ended up kind of becoming my assistant, helping me do stuff. And it was a sad story, but her dad had kind of, I guess through prescription medications or whatever. I mean, he was a strong believer. They had a church in their house and stuff, but he just went nuts and decided God had called him to be a missionary to a nudist colony in northwestern Canada. And he just took off. And so he abandoned the wife, 3 daughters. It was crazy. Well, she's in business with us, and this was before YouTube, and we had videotapes. And I had given her a videotape about our product, and her dad, kind of out of guilty, I got to come visit. I have kids. I need to go see him. So once or twice a year, he would, in his little Toyota pickup truck, he would drive from northwestern Canada and come back and make an appearance. And this was Christmas time, and he came home. And to this day, I don't know how, but somehow when he was making his trek back to Canada, the videotape ended up on the front seat of his truck. And on the way back, he stopped to visit. So these were our dear friends. And here's what crazy happened. Our dear friends, crazy dad, stopped to visit his cousin in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who was president of a bank in Denham Springs, Louisiana. And he happened to be hosting 3 intern college students that summer that were at LSU's MBA for banking. It was a famous school. So somehow the videotape made it from his car. He never watched it, but it ended up in the magazine rack in the chair of the cousin's house that had the exchange students, banking students. One of them watched it. They got in the business. Their dad, that was president of a bank, joined our business. It was the beginning of our international business. It was unbelievable. And all that happened because we loved on somebody, cared about somebody, and they just happened to put a videotape in the front seat of their dad's truck. And that happened. So that's a crazy example. There are others where we've gone through and we've mined it. I mean, there's another one in the same Sunday school class. A couple whose dad was with Campus Crusade. He lived in Arrowhead Springs. He had been with Campus Crusade in Europe for years and was in charge of the project where they were based on the Rhine River in southern Germany. And they ended up getting in the business through the Sunday school relationship. And they ended up recruiting someone in Germany, Colonel Eugene Bird, who was Rudolf Hess's prison guard after World War II. I went over there. He became a qualifying national marketing director before he died. He was elderly at the time. I actually picked up a piece of the Berlin Wall with him off the streets in Berlin in 1989 when they were tearing it down. I mean, some of you have pieces of a Berlin Wall you bought at a souvenir shop. I have a piece of the Berlin Wall that I picked up off the ground when I was doing an event for this business in Berlin. It's crazy when you cherish and cling to relationships like that. It's the depth of those relationships that produces the fruit. It's not the surface. And a lot of times it's not even who you know, it's who they know that makes things happen. That may not have answered the question exactly, but that's the power of this business, Trey.
Sorry. Yeah, that's great. So I think that's the end of our questions. We don't have any more in queue right now.
Okay.
Curt, so take it.
I'm going to ask David a question. You ready, David?
Okay. Yeah.
So you and I know something that we can't tell everybody, right?
Correct.
And we know there's going to be a new product in San Diego. And I will tell you that David and I were on a call today where we got a preview. We can't tell you, but I'm 100 times more excited now than I was before the call. What they showed us is even that much better than I expected. So, yeah. David, what if we could convince everybody they didn't want to just find out about this and react, but they wanted to be prepared? We can't tell them what, but from the terms of memory jogger, contacts, a plan of action, if you could, you can't tell them what it is, but let's just use a code name so our tongue doesn't slip. Let's call it the puppy dog, okay? We're going to call the new product the puppy dog. That's our code name, just so we can talk about it for a minute. What would you, if they knew they were going to get this puppy dog in 2 weeks, what would you tell them to be doing right now to take the biggest advantage of what's about to happen?
Well, even not knowing what it is, I think it'd be safe to say something like this. I just got off the call with 2 of the top people in the company I've been working with for 2 years, 5 years, 20 years. And we are preparing to introduce a life-changing product. And I'll have more information in about 8 days, 10 days. And I want you to know about it. I don't even know exactly what it is, but could we have a conversation after March 17th and talk about this? Because I think it will be life-changing, and I think it's going to impact the whole world like nothing else. So you almost tease them with your own ignorance.
Yep.
But you tee them up now and get them committed to having a conversation with you or text with you or Zoom with you after the 17th.
I was thinking, David, kind of to leverage off of what we'd already said. You did such a great job explaining how important the memory jogger was. But
Well, sure,
what if they had a new, fresh list? Even if they didn't take action before, this will be known to the world the morning of March 14th, Friday morning, March 14th. Those of you in San Diego will find out firsthand. Those of you that are not in San Diego, just watch social media of somebody that is in San Diego, because they're going to be shouting from the mountaintops. But Dave, don't you think having a good current memory jogger, so when you came home, you didn't have to hunt for people? Wouldn't that be important? They could work on that now.
I would put on that memory jogger all your customers that are not currently active customers that could be renewed with a different vision. I think there's going to be some money made on this thing. Let me tell you that. There's going to be some serious income.
This may be a stretch, and I can't prove this, but I believe the last 2 weeks of March could be the biggest 2 weeks of sales in the history of the company in the United States. And it's just a matter of how much you want to participate in that. My mom used to say, that Shakespeare quote, "There's a tide in the lives of men when taken at its fullest, great fortunes doth produce." Well, it's going to be high tide on March 14th. You'll be able to get this if you don't come to San Diego on March 17th. My question is, how big a bucket are you taking to the beach? Because high tide's coming. And for those of you on here that are going to San Diego, here's a little tip that I would do if it was me. And I'm going, me, Lori, and Hope, in the next 48 hours, we're going to go do this. We're going to the post office. And I used to always say, even if there wasn't a big product coming, there was always a T-shirt, a hat, or some kind of brochure that'd be fun to send home to somebody that couldn't make it to conference. So I'd say grab 10 envelopes. I'm saying now grab 10, 20, 30, maybe 50 priority mail envelopes. Go ahead and get the postage put on them at the post office. Go ahead and write the address in of the people that you care about that are not going to be there. And when you're there, you can stick one of these new puppy dogs. No fleas, no ticks, no potty training required. You can stick it in that priority mail envelope and mail it home with a note that says, "I'm so excited about this. I'm in San Diego. I couldn't even wait till I got home to share it with you. I want you to try this. And when I get home, we've got to talk." Who are the 10,
That's
20,
good, Curt.
30?
I like that.
Huh?
Yeah. The thing is, it's simple. It's doable, and it will do wonders for you personally just by being engaged at that level, and get your brain does wonderful things when you start doing creative things like that, and you'll come home with a lot of momentum.
Yeah,
a lot of momentum. The word I came away from the call today was, with this product, we will move towards world domination in the whole food,
plant-based
health food space that we've loved to have, but we've been sort of tripping over ourselves for a few years. But this is going to
David, I love that about the call today. In Gina, our CMO, Gina Gura, in her soft British voice, she said something that was like she was charging like the gladiators in 300. She said, we're launching this because our goal is world domination. That's what she did. She said it multiple times.
That's the word I picked up.
Yeah. It was, I mean, what if you could be a part of a company that owns their product category, and their goal is to be innovative and resourceful and creative enough that their goal is world domination? That's crazy. That's awesome.
And even if you think you know what the product is, the marketing tools and the marketing strategy attached to it sets it apart another level.
Yeah. I mean, so the testing they've done, the market research they've done, I can tell you, I'm 37 years with this company. David is too. 37 years. I don't think there's been a more potent, successful, dominating product launch than we're about to get next Friday. So,
It's 7 o'clock.
huh?
Thank you, Curt, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Trey, you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, sure. So everybody, thank you for joining us. If you head to makealife.com/BYE 2025, you can stay connected with what's next. We are going to be having an event, our big quarterly event. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be awesome. That is going to be on April 16th. And I'm really pumped up about it. It's going to be unique and different. So we're excited about sharing that with you all. And beyond that, we're really grateful. This call you can find on Facebook, you can find on YouTube, to share with other team members. We know that sometimes timing just doesn't make sense for some schedules, so we're glad you're here. Yeah, we really appreciate it. And if you have any other follow-up questions, you can always feel free to text that number again. And yeah, Curt can answer.
Hey, glad you were here. Be blessed. And one other tip. Take an extra bag to California if you're going to San Diego, because you can buy it right there and you can take home all you can get. Just another tip. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, David, for being here. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.